Hello, everybody.
Hello. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon. This is the beauty of online meetings, because wherever you are, you can join. The beauty of technology. And since you are joining, could you please use your skills and type something in the chat? Where you from? What's the weather like in your country? So me and Kamil are based in
it's beautiful.
Poland.
Yeah,
Beautiful autumn, quite chilly, I must say.
but still sunny.
But it's still sunny. We've got Patrick. Hi, Patrick. Brazil, Armenia.
Brazil, hello, Brazil. Right. Good.
Wrocław, Agnieszka. Okay, so 2-hour drive. Good to have you with us. Lithuania, Ukraine, Brazil. Martina, hi. Vietnam and India. That's amazing.
Must be quite late in Vietnam, right?
Yes, I think at some point we need to organize a competition. What's the latest
The
time?
latest and earliest, right?
Yeah,
Brazil,
I heard
it's quite
someone
early.
saying like it was 1 a.m. or something. So that was absolute record breaker for the time being. Hi, Justina. It's raining in Armenia. Life. Okay, so do enjoy the sun behind the clouds. Okay, so as people will be joining, this is the part of the Teacher Training Academy. So welcome to this yet another training. This is Training Academy in 2024, and actually we are coming to an end. It's been like it's a third edition. So there are 3 sessions to go. So all those sessions that you see, and you can watch the recordings on the website. We had some skills sessions. We had some practitioners experience, and today we will have the focus is on the last 3 sessions. Actually, the focus is on Pearson English International Certificate, the skills development, and the last one, this is practitioner experience. So my name is Bartłomiej Janiak, not Pearson English Assessment. I need to change this name. And we've got the main presenter of this session and the follow-up session on the 21st of October, Kamil Patrick.
31st.
Yes,
right.
Yes. And we've been with Kamil for some time. He's an academic teacher, and I'm sure that he will provide you with a really down-to-earth practicalities of what can you implement into this exam preparation classroom. So before we move on, the next slide. Once we finish the training, you will get a single email, and you'll find this email, the feedback form, and the feedback form will include editable certificates so that you'll be able to put your name, and you'll have like a key takeaway summary from Kamil, his most important elements that he considers essential when it comes to developing these particular skills he'll be talking about. Hi from Georgia, Madonna. Hi from Pakistan. So the next slide. So this is the certificate and the feedback form and the takeaway. You will get it by Monday at the latest. So that's gonna be the deadline once you get it. And I guess, Kamil, the floor is yours. The chat will be open, so you'll have a chance to interact with our audience. Our audience, you can ask questions, and I guess, Kamil, the floor is yours. If you could tell a few things about yourself, who you are, and why is it you that you're gonna be talking about it, and basically enjoy the session for you and for our wonderful audience as well.
Thank you very much, Bartek. So it's very nice to have you in my session. As Bartek said, my main focus is teaching university students. I've been with Pearson exams for 10 years, because I also work for a test center in Poland, a test center that runs or administers especially Pearson English International Certificate, also Pearson English International Certificate for young learners. And that's why we We're going to focus today mostly on Pearson English International Certificate, although, as you will see, the kinds of tasks in this examination are the tasks that you can find in many other Pearson examinations. So let's discuss elevating your speaking and listening for language certification. It's not easy to draw the line here, speaking and listening. That's why it's there's this end there, because as you will see, and maybe as you know, in the exam in Pearson English International Certificate, these skills are very often tested in combination. Actually, part one of the exam is called speaking and listening. So, but still, I'd be trying to have a look a little bit separately, since these are separate skills, although most often used in combination. So let's have a look at some challenges when it comes to speaking in an exam. What we're discussing here is an exam that is computer-based. So that's an exam in which the test takers are recorded where they speak to a microphone. So one of the challenges could be this nervousness when talking to the machine, right? Another one could be the pronunciation issues that can influence clarity when they are under pressure, because there's this time pressure in this computer-based test. Another challenge that I find most difficult for my students and for test takers is that they introduce all those sounds and this hesitation that leads to the decrease of fluency, and that obviously somehow influences the recording and influences their mark in speaking. Then some challenges connected with the content, what is actually said. So the responses are sometimes can be brief, undeveloped, right? Or not organized logically. And well, last but not least, obviously, as I mentioned, for speaking, although not only for speaking, generally in computer-based tests, time is a crucial factor. So struggling with time management is a challenge here. So, well, actually, what can we do to help them embrace those challenges? That's the question. So I'd like to, in this session, I'd like to have a look at some test items, some exam items, and just look at some activities that you can introduce into your classroom, right? And how you can work with the students to help them overcome those problems or embrace those challenges that we discuss. So let's have a look at read aloud. Thank you for sharing your ideas on chat, right? So Zario, you say you freak out when you listen to the word when you hear the word test. Yeah, but we here discussing speaking and listening within the context of examination. So the first task, test task that I'd like to discuss is this read aloud in Pearson English International Certificate. This read aloud, well, just as its name could suggest, basically the test takers have to read aloud. They have a sentence or a short text and they just read it aloud. So that's the task that tests the content, right? To what extent it reflects the text, what is being recorded, what is spoken, oral fluency, and pronunciation. And pronunciation, when pronunciation is a question, so this is obviously how vowels, how consonants are pronounced. So individual sounds, that's one of the element of this pronunciation trait. Then the stress, another story, right? How words and phrases, so word level, sentence level stress, how it works, and how understandable it is. So these are the elements that this computer, right, or this artificial intelligence that is actually marking speaking, right, will be somehow programmed to turn attention to. So what about it? How to work? How to improve pronunciation? I'd like to share some ideas for working with the, especially with the courseware, right? Some ways to adapt your courseware to make it good preparation for tests, for in this case, Pearson English International Certificate. So in your course books you can find a lot of short text, like short passages, that will be good material for working with your students towards a certificate. Just like you can see an example here, a short reading, so something like that can be taken. And the most basic thing that you can do, right, instead of just reading it, right, giving it to students and asking them to read it and answer some question, before you do that, you can use such short texts to show them how they can work with reading aloud text. So there are three most important elements, and well, they will need some guidance from you. So first of all, show them how they can divide texts into thought groups, right? So work with them and show where there should be these little pauses, right? Obviously, that will be some linkers, some punctuation marks, like I know commas, but there will be a lot of other places in text that could be separated, that could be paused. So this is one of the important elements. Being able to identify these is very important for them to do well in read aloud tasks. Then obviously linking, show them how they can link, especially those consonant vowel linking, like I know years old went into, was at work, right? So show them those places, how they can make the reading smoother, simply speaking. And weak forms, those three elements, you can work with them, show them, practice that using those short texts, short readings that you can find in any course book, actually. So now, a tiny task for you. Let's imagine this has been taken from Speak Out, just a short text. And what about you? What are the thought groups? Like, after which words in this passage would you pause it? Would you put in a tiny pause to make it more clear for marking, right? So use a chat, and after which words, for example, would you suggest pauses? So I'm looking at the chat. Right, if you have any suggestions, after which words, where are the thought groups, right? What are the thought groups in the text above? Have you got any ideas? Right, I'm waiting. For example, after the word wool, right? Okay, right. So, or maybe blue, right? Because it's like paint something blue, right? Yes, after the word blue, for example. Thank you, Ina, right? And Zara also blue, for example. Yeah. That's one place. Obviously, we could use some other places. There's a nice tool to work with such a problem. If you just Google text to speech, you'll get a lot of platforms that actually change text into speech, and their artificial intelligence somehow introduces those pauses, so you can easily compare, right, your ideas with what those platforms tell you. In a moment, I'm going also to get back to such platforms. So thank you for looking at that. If you want to get ready for, help your students get ready for Read Aloud, it's important that one of the challenges that I mentioned is recording, right? Facing the machine. So that's an element where our students typically are used to using those machines like mobiles, but it's not that common that they record things. That doesn't have to be that common. That depends obviously on particular group. But introduce this element into your classroom. So have your students, for example, prepare and record voice messages, which is actually an element of many course books, right? You have, for example, I know you can see this example of roadmap where there is specifically an element of one class that they have to prepare and record voice message. So that could be simply an element of your coursework. If it isn't, You can easily introduce that into your course, and for example, you can ask your students to record a diary, right? And this diary they then upload into the cloud so that everybody in the group can listen to the diaries. And you can run some kind of voting, and they decide which diary is the best, and they vote for the diary of the month, right? So it's a simple activity, doesn't require any effort, practically no effort on the teacher's side, but still you introduce this element of recording, right? Listening to the recordings and working with the machine, right? Which will reduce the stress level later in the test when they have to use microphones. Or another idea, how to work with the machine. There's a great function in every mobile, right? This is this function that changes the voice into the text, right? So it's easily available. Everybody has it in their mobile. So why not use it, right? Give your students some short texts to read out, actually, and have the mobiles transform or transfer this voice into the text. And once you have the text, right, of the recording, once you have, so you can see how the machine actually recognized the voice, and how the particular sounds, particular words have been recognized by a machine. And if you have that, you can, show your students some very useful functions, like every text editor, like Word, for example, they have this compare function where they can compare the original text with what has been recorded by the machine, and if there are any differences. Or there are great places online where that can compare texts, and you have an example in the slide where two texts are compared. On the left you have the original text, on the right you have the text recorded and recognized by a machine, and they can very easily see the differences, see how well they read out the text. And for example, in this case, the similarity of the text is, as you can see, 95%, 92% here. It's so it's in mathematical terms, they can see how good the pronunciation is, how precise and how easily understandable for a machine the pronunciation is. So that's that's an idea of introducing this. And thank you, Stina, for your remarks that recording is one of the most stressful exercises. Yeah, I mean, that causes a lot of stress. I agree, and that's why I think it's worth introducing, especially these days that most exams that I would say maybe not most, but more and more exams are taken in front of machines. So that's one of the skills we can teach them, like interacting with the machine and recording voice on a machine. Thank you for that remark. Okay, another task in Pearson English International and Certificate computer-based test is the scribe image. That's a task that you can come across in many different exams. A version of that is also present in PT Academic, where they have described an image that is connected with some, for example, diagram or graph. Here it's a described image, so they simply look at a photograph and they have to describe what they can see, and they have limited time. Time is always a factor in computer-based tests, very important. And again, we have content, pronunciation, fluent, oral fluency. That these are the traits that are scored. For describe image, I would say that especially content and oral fluency is a challenge. Oral fluency that is understood as some rhythm, phrasing, and stress that are smooth, that the rate of speech is constant and natural, and there are no hesitation and repetitions and false starts, then this speech is recognized as fluent. So these are the challenges when facing tasks like describe image, because these are are longer pieces of their own production, right? This is not reproduction, just like in Read Aloud here, they have to produce their own text. So how to work, how to introduce some elements of preparation for the scribe image into your classroom. Well, obviously, if you work with some courseware, there's plenty of material, because no matter what courseware you take, there are always some great images, and some of them are just there, right, to start, for example, a unit. Some of them have some purpose, right, in the courseware, but all of them are great material to use for the scribe image. So take images from your course book. You don't have to look for, although these days it's very easy to look or even create your own images with AI, but there's no need for that. There are so many of them in the courseware that we use. And the first thing that I would do is this content. I mentioned that one of the challenges is that organizing the content in some logical way. So give them some tools with which they can easily and immediately organize this content. So, for example, the simplest possible tool is this 5 Ws and 1 H rule. I wonder if you have seen that. Well, this is quite an obvious rule in which when you have to say something or discuss a topic, in this case, it's discussing an image, you simply answer 6 questions, right? And this is who, what, where, when, why, plus how. So by answering the questions, you organize, you give some logical pattern to what you are producing. So that's the simplest rule to organize the production. And what is important anytime you work with images, always remember that you have to set time limits, because coming back again to that, time is an important factor, right? These are very strictly, I mean, computer-based tests like Pearson English International Certificate. These are strictly timed tests, and time is an important factor practically for every task there, especially for speaking tasks. So always give them the time limit. So that's the simplest way you can work with images. Well, there are some other a little bit more competitive activities, I would say, or maybe more dynamic that you can that we can use. So, for example, you can use this images from your courseware, and you put your students in pairs. You give each pair 2 images, and each student has 25 seconds to describe image. So each student in the pair has an image, has a separate image, and every time they hesitate or they pause or they say something like that, the partner just listening to that can tap the table. Or if you want to make it more competitive, the partner will give penalty points, right? So just in a dynamic way, they practice avoiding those hesitations, repetitions. Like this, what is one of the challenges of speaking in a computer-based test. Another idea for some, I would say, dynamic, a little bit competitive activity, maybe. It's speed dating is always a good model for many communicative activities in a classroom. So you can run an image speed date. So every student gets a different image from you, from the course book, right? You can send them, I mean, you can refer them to particular images in the course book. And then you set up a classroom like a speed dating. That means that you have to have some chairs facing one another, right? Because this is going to be speed dating event. And well, in the speed dating event, they work in pairs. They have very limited time, like they no more than half a minute for describing the images, each in a pair. And after that, they change. After each round, they switch partners. They move to another partner, just like in a speed dating. So after they have talked to every person in a group, let's say, they can choose the date, right? They can choose the person who, in their opinion, has the most similar image to theirs. So just speed dating with images. this speed dating element is introduced here to again provoke this time pressure. They have to quickly describe it, and they're pressed for time. As I said, time is an important factor here. Another activity in which they will learn how to structure what they're saying and give some logical structure in order to score better in this content element. This is an activity in which you can again use images from your course books. The students work in pairs, right? The student A gets a picture, right, and they have to prepare 10 questions. And by preparing questions, they learn how to analyze the picture, how to get ready for describing different details in some kind of logical order. So this is this is something that helps them organize later on their work with images. So they prepare, let's say, 10 or 5 questions. That depends on how complex the picture is. Then student A shows the picture to student B for 1 minute. After this 1 minute, student A conceals the picture, right? And student B has to answer questions about this picture, and student A gets a point for each unanswered question. So very simple activity, but by preparing questions, then you obviously change the roles. By preparing questions, they learn how to organize, how to analyze their images, and how to organize what they say. Right. Good. Thank you for your remarks. So from Madonna. Okay. And another task that is an element is one of the tasks in the speaking and listening part, which is listen and repeat. Well, that's a very again very simple task in which I'm simple in terms of the procedure. This is a task in which they simply listen to a sentence or a short text and they have to repeat it. And again, the traits that are scored is pronunciation, oral fluency, content. And here, pronunciation is an issue because they have to be this pronunciation has to be really clear so that this is recognized. I mean, all the words and the whole sentence is recognized and all the words are spoken properly. So there are no, the computer doesn't recognize some words as those that miss out from what they say. So, to get them ready for that activity, listen for this item, listen and repeat. The great material that is available in every course book, almost every course book, is the pronunciation sections. I especially like the pronunciation sections in Business Partner and Roadmap. They have very good pronunciation sections, and these are great sources of ready-made sentences for some specific, well, pronunciation problems that could be used as listen and repeat material, even as a standalone sentences without actually teaching these course books. You can easily you can use those sentences for practicing listen and repeat. So the most obvious thing you can do with that is give sentences to students that they can use for just reading out, so read aloud practice, and repeating in pairs. Or you can say a sentence aloud, right, and then the first student repeats it, and then next student, for example, has to repeat it and add one word or a small phrase. This adding element is important here because that somehow, if they know that they have to add something, they focus on the content of what they listen and they focus what can be added, how the sentence can be completed. So they learn how to not mechanically repeat the sentence, because this is very important in this activity, that they don't mechanically repeat the sentence, but they understand the sentence and they repeat as if to say with understanding. So if they have to add something, that will well, elevate their understanding, and they will be obviously more focused on the sentence. And similar story. So you read out the sentences, the students repeat the sentences, but in the second round, you slightly change this, right? This original sentence, you change one word, for example, or some phrase, and again, they have to repeat this new sentence. And again, that promotes, as if to say, this listening with understanding, not mechanically repeating, but understanding, being focused, and looking for the differences compared to the previous sentence. So these are the activities easily introduced into the classroom. And as I said, a great source for sentences like that would be pronunciation sections. Another activity, a very easy to run in class, and a good activity for, I know, a class opener or roundup, whichever moment in the during the class you prefer. It's just you take one student is standing in front, comes to the front of the room, and they get a sentence, and they get the emotion, right? This is just like a fun way of practicing producing sentences. What they have to do, they have to read out the sentence with this specific emotion, right? And the group guesses the emotion. So this way they have to think of the intonation, right, and on the rhythm, specific rhythm, all those elements of pronunciation that are important in listen and repeat. So that's when it comes to speaking challenges. As I said, it's not an easy task to draw a line here between speaking and listening, because a lot of tasks are actually combined. They combine different skills. So when it comes specifically to listening in an exam, I would say that the challenges that they face would be, first of all, following connected speech, right? Identifying separate words or phrases, right? Especially when the sounds are reduced, right? When the speech is connected, this is quite a challenge, right? Also, when listening is a challenging task when you have to perform some other actions, when you have to, for example, write down things when this is listen and write, or read things at the same time when this is listen and read. So this could be a challenge in Pearson English International Certificate. Then obviously identifying some details, some specific information in the recordings, especially if these are longer recordings, or following some compound sentences or complex structures also poses a challenge to them. If the clips are longer, especially, I would say, a little bit younger test takers, like teenagers, for example, they might have problems concentrating, focusing. Nothing can be obviously repeated, so they might have problems focusing, concentrating, and retaining information for a longer time, so that they can then answer the questions about it. And obviously, especially higher levels, the problem might be starting from B1 onwards, identifying some paraphrases, some implied meaning. Obviously, the questions for high levels would require them to be able to do that. So these are the challenges, and obviously, what can we do to help them embrace those challenges? So when it comes to listening, I wanted to have a look at a few tasks again, and how we can use those in our classroom, and how we can get or help them get ready for those tasks. So listen and read. Well, by definition or by name, this is not only listening, because this is listening and reading. So this is a task in which they read and listen to the text, and they have to find differences between the written text and the spoken text. This is also called hotspots. So they identify words that are different in the tape script or audio script or here that are different from what they actually can hear. And obviously, the scoring is based on partial credit rule, where they get points for every correctly identified word. Right. So let's have a look how we could work with that. And again, the material that we have, you don't have to look for anything. You have your course books, you use your courseware. So an idea for an activity where you can prepare a sentence. So you have a reading task, and you can prepare one sentence or two sentences from a reading task, and you ask students to listen to it being read, right? So they not read it, but they listen to it. And they have to identify, for example, how many words with the sound, I know, this ash sound, just like in cat, they can identify in this specific passage. So this way, you can improve their ability to identify sounds, right? The awareness of sounds that will be very helpful when they listen to a text, and they have to identify if the words are in the transcript, in the audio script, are correct or not. And they listen for this particular sound and count this. So that's a task for you now. Actually, I've got a text taken from Speak Out B2, and how many ash sounds are there? This cat, right, sound are there? Well, to make it easy for you, I provided the text. You can also provide your students with the text, obviously. This way, this is closer to this activity in which they have to listen and read. Let me play it for you.
Her boat looks homely, filled with water cans, cooking pots, plastic utensils, a kerosene lamp and a couple of pot plants.
Okay, so use your chat. And how many ash sounds are there or were there in this recording and in this text? That's a very quick activity. Right. Thank you for that, Chiara. Right. Obviously, cans. Yes, cans is one of those words. Right, there's Gavar. You say 3. Yes, this is definitely 3. That's cans, that's plastic, that's lamp. Obviously, plants. This was British version, right? So plants was produced as R, not A here. So so we have 3 ash sounds. As I said, very quick activity, helps them become aware of this sound-letter relationship as well, something that will help them work with hotspots, with listen and read activities. Thank you for that, right? Let's have a look at another activity that you can use to get them ready for this hotspot or listen and read. You can prepare some easily confused words, pairs of words. Artificial intelligence platforms are great for that. You can they will prepare lists of such words for you. So words like fact, effect, right, accept, quiet, something like that. So those that sound similar, those words will be preferred by item writers for this exam. They will be looking for such words. And you take one pair, for example, and you display that on the board, right? You just write down 2 words, right? Just as you can see, accept and accept. And students write and you read out or you play a sentence that contains one of these words. Students are listening and they decide what is being played or what is being read. Is it accept or is it accept? If you want to make it very dynamic, you can place your students in a row and ask them to step to the right or step to the left, right, depending on what the decision is. Or if you don't want to do that, you can just ask them to raise the hand, either the left hand or the right hand, depending on what they decide the sentence is. Just to show you how it works, I've got a recording for you. Listen to the recording and decide which word is being pronounced in the sentence. Is it accept or is it accept? Right? Listen.
His school reports said that he is always ready to accept a challenge.
Okay. So which one was that? Is it left-hand side or is it right-hand side? Oh, choose. Thank you, Felicia. Right. Thank you for that idea. So these are the words. If you ask AI to produce such pairs for you, you'll get hundreds of pairs. I mean, maybe not hundreds, but maybe tens of pairs like that. Yeah, obviously accept. Thank you. Right. Yes. That's great. You are very attentive. Thank you very much for that. So this is exactly how you work with that, and it's very easy because you can ask AI for pairs like that, and then you can actually use online dictionaries to play directly from, if you have a computer in your classroom and you can play things from the internet, you can simply play directly from the online dictionaries that provide examples with the sentences, so you can directly play that there. Or, as I mentioned, there are a lot of platforms. Just Google text-to-speech and you'll get a lot of platforms in which you can type a sentence or a text and they will read out the text for you. You can download, and most of them are free of charge, right? You can easily download the MP3 file, for example, with the recording of this text. So that's very easy activity to prepare in just a few minutes, and you're ready with just nice dynamic activity, and they will benefit from it by focusing them on these pairs of words that are typically confused and that will be used by item writers later on in their exam. Another listening activity that I would say item that involves listening, but not only. As you can see, there's this listen and write, so there's this write element also, and by definition included. That's a simple dictation, right? So the students listen to a sentence or a short text and they have to write down what they heard. Quite a challenge for many of them, so requires some preparation, and they have to get used to this, like listening and transcribing word for word what they hear. Scoring in this element is based on the ability to understand, right? So listening, the structure, sentence structure, word order, connectors, things like that. And it's also based on the ability to write accurately, but we'll be focusing especially on this listening skill. Although, as I said, it's not easy to draw a line here because these skills, listening and writing, so receiving and producing, these are combined here. So obviously, I'm coming back to this pronunciation sections. So make use of pronunciation sections in your course books, especially those units or those parts which discuss this sound and spelling, or sounds and spelling relationships. There are a lot of such units in, for example, Roadmap has great activities and great units that show this relation, because, well, obviously there are a lot of irregularities, but a lot of those relations between sounds and spelling are quite regular in English, and they can simply learn, if they hear the sound, how the sound could be written down. So make use of that. You have practically every courseware has these pronunciation sections. Also, another activity in which they can practice being focused on what is heard and, well, transcribing that. You can take some dense text from an audio script. Preferably that should be dense text, like a monologue, rather than a conversation. So conversations, dialogues wouldn't be good for this activity. And you simply play the recording. You play the text. That should shouldn't be too long, right? I wouldn't make it longer than 100 words probably. So you play it at normal speed without any pauses for writing down. This is very important. This is very important that there are no pauses. This is just as it is recorded in your course book. And what they do, when listening, they jot down keywords, phrases, anything that they can understand, they can hear. So what they come up with is a text full of gaps, right? But it's good. It's good because this way they learn that when listening for this activity, for listen and write, for dictation, they learn how to keep writing, no matter if I understand or not, if it's too quick or not, keep writing as many words as possible, because obviously there is always the time to complete it, right? To analyze, maybe they can, for example, get some collocation after some time. So as many words as they can, because this is what is happening in this activity. In the Pearson English International Certificate, the text or the sentence is read only once, right? So they have to be really focused and write down as many as they can, and then they can get back to that, which is in this activity what they can do together in a group. They pool their words, right? They reconstruct. Everybody somehow contributes, and they try to recreate a text, and that could be made as a competition. For example, the group with the output text that is the closest to the original will be the winners of the competition, for example. So this way they learn to keep writing, right? No matter how quickly the text is being read, that they can always then go back to that and complete some gaps in it. Also, another activity that will help them keep writing, no matter what is being read, for example, is an activity in which you take, again, a short extract from a reading passage, and you simply you make some changes, like you, instead of, for example, it's undeniably a city, you make it's undeniable city. So on purpose, you introduce some mistakes, like it's undeniable a city, or with imposing city calls, right? So you introduce a few, surprising words or wrong words, and you read out the sentence or sentences as dictation, and they have to write down. And then you ask them to identify the mistakes. This way you teach them to think critically and look at what they have written in a critical way, and use the knowledge of grammar, vocabulary, to improve the text, to correct the text, because this is what they do in the task later on in the exam. Because once they have written down the sentence that they have heard, they have some time to go back to the sentence and, for example, correct any mistakes that they have made. So this way you teach them that. And last but not least, I would say last but the biggest, the tasks that are called passage comprehension, or listen to conversation, the tasks in which they listen. These are classic listening comprehension activities. These are the tasks in which they listen to, either the conversation and they have to answer short questions about it, or they listen to a passage, like, for example, a story, and they also have some comprehension questions, depending on the level. That could be like clicking on an image, or just giving a short answer in spoken answer. But basically, this is like listening comprehension, where they have to listen to a little bit longer passages. And some ideas to, again, incorporate into your classroom for passage comprehension. You can, for example, take a listening activity from your course book, but you can treat it a little bit different way. Like, you look for some words in it that, either depending on what you want to practice. My idea would be to look for those expressions, those phrases, those words in the audio script that actually help students find the correct answer to the question. So you look for them and you put those on some small pieces of paper, those, for example, phrases that can help them give correct answers later on. And the first listening is they only focus on those phrases, so they can see those phrases in front of them. They listen to the audio, and the idea is that they grab the phrase or grab the word the moment they hear that. So it's very dynamic. Sometimes there is a lot of fun, right? Who first grabbed something, because this is competitive. The person who grabs more sentences or phrases or words will be, let's say, a winner of this competition. So this way they focus on some phrases, they identify them, and after that, obviously, you can play this recording as normal, right? You play it once again and do the course book task, but through being focused on some specific phrases, specific words, seeing them also helps them to go through and also keeps them focused, and that's very useful for the work with passage comprehension later on in the exam. When it comes to listening to the conversation, you remember they listen to some conversation, they have to answer a question about it. Again, you can take any course book, any courseware, take any listening task with a conversation, right, from your course book, and take some words in it. Again, that could be words that help give the correct answer, or could be right just for on its own, as a standalone activity. It could be used like that. So you take some words or phrases and you prepare synonym cards, right? So you prepare a card with the synonyms of this word from the audio script. Obviously, there might be more synonyms and more words to be guessed. In the slide, you can see just one, and you give the cards, or you can display that on your whiteboard. For example, you just write on the synonyms on the whiteboard, and you ask them to listen to the conversation, and they should identify the synonyms, right? So obviously they should, while listening, they should identify the word sad. So you simply ask them a question: what is the synonym of these words that you can see that you in the text or in the conversation that you are going to listen to? Just to show you how it works, I have prepared, well, a sample of such an activity. There's a very short passage. In a moment, you're going to listen to that. So can you identify the paraphrase of the expression "have a deep bond," right? So I'm going to play a short passage and listen carefully and identify the phrase that is exactly the same, means exactly the same as "have a deep bond." That is a paraphrase of "have a deep bond." So listen to that, and I wonder if you manage. That's a very short passage.
I think the relationship with a twin sister would be very important because you would probably be very close and tell her stuff you wouldn't tell other people.
And now I wonder if you can identify this paraphrase of "great, fantastic, you're so good," right? To be very close, exactly. That was, thank you, Chiara and Prlikova, right? So thank you for that. Good, Aneta, Vasiliki, right. Yeah, obviously, I suppose that wasn't that challenging for you, but I just wanted to show how it works, right? So you were listening and focusing on finding the paraphrase in this case, right? So this helps them face or embrace this challenge of understanding paraphrases of what they have in the item in the exam and what they hear. So for levels B1 and upwards, you would use paraphrase. Below B1, probably you can use synonyms, obviously, but this is how you help them deal with this item type. So right, be very close. Just a few takeaways, some points that I'd like to somehow emphasize, especially after this session today, for you to take home with you, although I suppose most of you are at home. So remember that if you're working with exam classes, this is still, although these are exam classes, or although they're getting ready for some certification, this is still important that you have to somehow motivate them. So create classroom environment that promotes this active participation, pair work, group discussions, interactive listening, and speaking tasks, which will be the result of implementing some games, some activities that promote speaking and listening in a little bit enjoyable ways from time to time. It's a good thing to introduce some fun activities. I have mentioned that a few times, that always press for time. If you know that your students or your learners are going to take, for example, Pearson English International Certificate, this is computer-based test. Time is a factor there, right? So simulate exam condition and have your students practice speaking tasks, but also listening tasks, right, with where you set time limits. And use your courseware, right? With just a little bit of adaptation. Any course book will be a very useful source of material for exam preparation. So don't be afraid, even if it doesn't say, the course book doesn't say, I know, preparation course for Pearson English International Certificate. If you don't have that, it doesn't mean that you cannot use it, because you can use any communicative course book, right, based on communicative method. You can use it to prepare some activities that will help your students get ready for Pearson English International Certificate. Right. So thank you.
Yeah, and I guess Justina, you wrote that she's going to try at least one of them, the tips in the session tomorrow.
Fantastic.
So
That would be fantastic.
So put those ideas into practice. That's the best you can do. Thank you, Kamil, for sharing all those practicalities. And looking forward to seeing you on the next session this month. So we'll cover 2 remaining skills in exam preparation. But as you mentioned, exam is just the name. And the beauty of teaching English, that's where the story begins. Thanks a lot. Thank you for participation. Thank you for sharing your ideas. Put those ideas into practice. And you'll be able to see the recording on the Teacher Training Academy website soon. Thanks a lot. Enjoy the rest of your day or your night. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you very much. That was great having you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.